So we are a mission-driven school. And so our mission is developing habits of the heart and mind for a life of purpose and service. I like to say it again, otherwise it's just chatter. Developing habits of the heart and mind for a life of purpose and service. So we're very much on the brain and the heart. So those are our two things, so that kids are constantly striving to seek meaning and a sense of purpose in their lives.
In this video, you'll meet Stuart Grainger, who's the head of school at Trinity College School in Port Hope, Ontario. And in this video, you'll hear him talk about why TCS is trying to be the most caring school in Canada. You'll also hear him talk about what surprised him when he first joined the school 16 years ago. And you'll also hear him talk about the school life at TCS and how it breaks free from the typical school day from 9 to 5 and bleeds into evenings, weekends, and creates a full life. So why don't you start by telling us 3 things you love about your job?
Wow. I love educator. You would hope an educator would love working with kids. Prefer to work with kids than adults, if the truth be known, I guess. Love their energy, love the optimism, and love, preparing for the future and a brighter future. That'd be one. Number 2, I think I have a tremendously purposeful life. Hopefully our entire community of the school helps kids prepare for the future, and then to see them grow, not just while they're at TCS, but we have a very strong alumni network, and to see them later on in life and to see how they progress. And I guess the third part is I love Mondays. Most people say, they can't wait till Friday. I love Mondays, and Mondays I work with like a great leadership team and faculty and staff and the kids, and we love where we live. We love what we do. It has meaning and purpose. So I guess those are my 3 best things about my job.
And what surprised you about the school when you first arrived?
Just finished my 16th year. So what surprised me about the school? What surprised me? Well, I guess to be honest, I didn't know that I would love living in a small town as much as I do. I love the community in which we are. I love the, how much our kids actually contribute to the community and how much the community enhances our school. I've worked in schools that had, day student populations, and I've worked in ones that had day and boarding. But for 16 years to be at a school that has, roughly half of the kids boarding from 40 different countries, and day students that come from across, our region. We have kids from across Canada. To be in a school that is basically 7 days a week, you would think that that might be overwhelming in the sense of, when does everyone get a break? But actually, it is it's like a little village in and of itself, and living in a village gives you lots of opportunities for downtime and sports, athletics, and arts, and seeing kids shine outside of a classroom at all. We often say here that learning takes place 24 hours a day, and just to be part of that experience with kids and have almost like how a lot of kids look at camp. I only went to day camps, but I know a lot of families and kids that went to camp, and you can tell kids that went to camp, they loved camp. And it's the big surprise is how much people love the school and how much the alum love the school. And so a little bit corny, but it doesn't really feel like most days it doesn't feel like I've got a job. I'm just a member of the community, and I love being part of something which is so deeply, almost at the molecular level. The kids just love every aspect of TCS, most aspects of TCS.
Right. In your first answer, when you said that you loved Mondays, I thought, well, it's not like you really get a weekend when you're living at a boarding school like TCS, when there's always stuff going on. It's not like on a weekend you can step away from it. So what in your view, how does life at TCS continue from, the official work week into the weekend and the evenings and life beyond the school day?
Hmm. Well, it's a really good question. So I would think that most schools, the traditional school, would consider most people say that's 8 hours. So, if I started at 8 a.m. and then I came home at 4 p.m., a school would look at how do we manage that time by and large. Whereas my responsibility, our school's responsibility, is we divide a typical day into 3 8-hour segments. And so there is the school day, the academic day. There's obviously all of the other 8 hours of social time, sports, athletics, homework, preparation, that. And then there's the 8 hours of sleep, roughly. So we need a plan and a program in 3 8-hour segments. And we need to provide a high level of care and security, as well as an active programming for three 8-hour segments. And then similarly, most schools would think of Monday to Friday. Well, we don't think in those terms. We think of 7 days a week. And so we do have a program from Monday to Friday, and then we also have a program on Saturday and Sunday. And like the best part is, it's sort of like the best part of life, and that is, if you were to live a full, enriching life, what would you like to do? Well, you'd like to be challenged. You'd like to be academically stimulated, intellectually stimulated. You need to be physically active. You would like to be connected. You'd like to be recognized. You'd like to be celebrated. You want to feel part of something bigger than yourself and contribute to something bigger than yourself. And over the course of your life, you don't sort of segment and go, well, I'm only going to do that. I'm only going to have a meaningful life for 7 of the 12 months of the year. You want that throughout your life. So in any given day, any given week, you're kind of fulfilling what you always wanted to do. So a typical week would be just you've got to be active. You have to want to be engaged, and you want to be involved. So I don't find I'm transitioning too much. Like, yay, it's the weekend. There's sports on Saturday mornings at TCS. And there was probably a concert on Friday night, or a dance, or a speaking competition, or something. So kind of not necessarily that we lose track of days, but the regiment of a 9 to 5 or a Monday to Friday work week doesn't really apply. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing.
And as head of school, what does a day typically look like for you, if there is one?
What is a typical day? Yeah. Well, I try to get up early in the morning. I'm up early. I'm more of a early bird, but by and large, I try to have coffee with the kids first thing in the morning, because we have boarding students and day students coming in. And we have assembly, chapel, we have all those kinds of things that unite the whole school together. And that's probably my favorite part of the day, when you have 500, 600 kids all together from all across Canada, all across the province, all across the region, different countries around the world, to connect face to face, if possible, with all the kids. That's an incredibly energizing feeling. And then it's just, we've got a lot of administrivia kind of stuff, but inevitably, we're meeting new families, prospective families. We have a ton of sporting events or artistic events that go on in the day. There will be break times where you get out and see kids. There's just I guess to your point, there's no typical day at Trinity College School, but every day, if there's a consistency thing, it's a very active several hours, all hours of the day. We're moving, and the kids are moving very quickly from sort of responsibility and pursuing their interests on a very active level.
What is the ratio between boarding students and day students at TCS?
So grade 9 to 12, there are roughly 300 boarders and 200 day students. So there are 60% of our high school population is boarding, and 40% are day students that come in and out every day. We have what we call our junior school, or elementary school. That's grades 5 to 8. And grade 5 to 8 are all day students. There's about 100 kids in our junior school. So depending on how you look at it, the entire school is 50% day, 50% boarding. Or another way of looking at it, junior school is all day. Senior school or high school is 60% boarding. But I think it's an important point that it seems like there's a line between boarding students and day students. The day students benefit from being part of a boarding school. And by that, I mean, that ranges everything from teachers that live on campus and are available throughout the day, early morning, even to the evening for extra help, etc. It means that our teachers and coaches are here throughout the day, and your coach is your teacher or an advisor of some kind. Our meals had better be good. So whether you're a day student staying for lunch or whether you're having 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, the food better be good. And just the level of support that's available to a student at any time, whether you're a day student or not, including on weekends. So we'll have extra help on weekends. We have sports on weekends. We have lots of activities on weekends. So while there's a different potential there is a different classification of day students and boarding students, the experience actually is very similar. And again, great for boarders, and day students also get the benefit of it.
And how does TCS ensure that, and also between the junior school and the high school, the day students and the boarding students, that there is a cohesive culture and life at the school?
Yeah, that's great. So we are a mission-driven school. And so our mission is developing habits of the heart and mind for a life of purpose and service. I like to say it again, otherwise just chatter. Developing habits of the heart and mind for a life of purpose and service. So we're very much on the brain and the heart. So those are our two things, so that kids are constantly striving to seek meaning and a sense of purpose in their lives as they go forward in their lives. So we talk about that a great deal, and that whether you're in grade 5 or whether you're in grade 10 or grade 12, you're very active here at the school, and you're developing not just the skills, but ultimately developing the confidences to handle a variety of circumstances that you're going to face either in your next grade or later at university or in life. That's what we're striving to do with parents. So from the get-go, the mission statement pertains to everybody, no matter what school you're in. So, and then of course there are, I would say, some people say, well, why shouldn't the junior school actually just be part of the senior school? I kind of like the fact that the grades 5 to 8, there is a different program for that age and stage of kids. And I also think that kids like to graduate from grade 8 and, in their mind, and go to the big leagues and go to the high school if it's fully integrated. And I respect schools that do that. But for us, I think there's a great sense of pride and a sense of completion when they finish grade 8 and then they're going into the high school. So our junior school, on campus, our building is separate from the rest of the school. So that, not that they use all our fields and they come over for lunch and all that kind of stuff, but by and large, when you graduate, say, from the junior school, you then move into a whole collection of additional facilities. And so it's one common mission, but with 2 separate facilities in many ways. Whereas in the high school, whether you're a day student or a boarding student, by and large, you have access to all the facilities.
Right. And so in terms of the model, the mandate of TCS, building hearts and minds for a life of service and
Purpose.
Purpose.
Good one.
What is that literally? How is that lived in the school? What are the programs? How are you talking about it to the students all the time? On the ground, how does that look and feel like?
Right. So when you talk about developing habits, we're obviously talking about good habits, and habits are learned through practice and living it, not just talking about it. So I think Canadians, by and large, are well respected for being kind and friendly and holding open doors. And so if I just use the holding open doors thing at our school, this is a demonstration of heart, of consideration for others, empathy towards others. So holding doors in a very small little way at TCS, and we all do it, and we talk about it a great deal, is a sign of being part of a community and not being just thinking of yourself. So when you hold a door open, literally, you are caring about somebody else. You're showing them a pathway. You're providing them an openness, a warmth, a hello, a greeting, an eye contact, an opportunity to say thank you, and an opportunity to engage in some way, either verbally or otherwise. And so that habit of heart, of yes, trying to enhance your own skills and enhance, preparing yourself for a future, but you're also part of a team. And so whether that is to hold doors open, whether that might be at lunch, we have trays, we collect our food, to take a tray in for someone else is something. So you take your own tray in, but we encourage kids, well, go back out, ask someone if they're finished their meal, and can I take your tray in? So little tiny important social engagements are actually setting up kids to do the right thing, not just say the right thing. So that would be, from a heart perspective, living it becomes critical. And then in terms of habits of the mind, whether you're talking about executive function, frontal lobe kind of things, and developing responsibilities, then we also have a whole collection of skills, aptitudes that we believe kids must take responsibility for. So whether that is communication skills, that we have specific programs which help kids listen to others, and also how to dialogue and discuss in order to find greater meaning from the benefit of different perspectives. So we actually have separate classes on how to communicate, how to engage, how to be better listeners and better speakers. So the key for us is making that mission statement a living action through a series of small but critical functions, so that kids can actually tangibly show that they are actually developing those skills of the heart and mind.
And is there a student that wouldn't excel at TCS, that for whatever reason wouldn't be the right fit?
So that's a different way of asking the question. I thought most people ask the question of, what kind of student are you looking for? And I always say very similar answer, and that is I just look for average kids. At one point, even our own mission statement said, it was addressing preparing promising young kids. Well, what parent doesn't think that their child has promise? That would be every child. Every child has promise. So in terms of a kid that, let's keep it the positive. What kind of kids then succeed? So if an average kid, if you're a parent and you've just got a kid, well, obviously if you're a parent, you do have a kid, and you're trying to find a good place for them to go, I would say, a student that wants a fresh start, somebody that either, talk out of both sides of my mouth, really knows what they want to do or has no clue. And so somebody that knows, I want to be a medical doctor, we could actually give them the path, both from a curricular and a co-curricular, from a community service, volunteer program. We could come up with a program that would best support them to pursue getting into a medical program. And we could do that. But what about the kid that says, I have no idea what I want to do? Well, we have as much time for those kids, because I actually don't think it's a bad thing to not know what you want to do, even at the age of 14, 15, 16. So what you want to do is create as many opportunities as you possibly can, with the confidence that they're going to latch onto something. It might not be predicted what it's going to be, or it might be a series of things that they latch onto, that they find an interest, and then maybe pursue it later. So again, the kind of kid that we look for is like a typical kid that either knows what they want to do or doesn't know what they want to do, but they are interested in finding their purpose. They are keen on discovering, where they're strong, what their strengths are, what those areas are that they need to develop, and that they are motivated to come to the school. Kids that are sent, and kids used to be sent to schools like independent schools. Now, I say this all the time, 95, 98% of the kids choose to come to the school. So to me, the ideal situation, and why places like TCS and TCS work and are successful, it's not just because we have great facilities and a great campus. It's not because we have, the best teachers on the planet, although I might argue in that favor. But there's a lot of great schools, a lot of great teachers out there, a lot of great programs. But I think what you want is like motivated kids, kids that want a fresh start. They want to pursue something. They want to be heard. They want to be connected. They want to be engaged. They want to be celebrated. They want to build their confidence so that by the time that they graduate, they feel exceptionally proud of themselves. And they feel that when they move on to university or afterwards, they're better prepared to face the slings and arrows that life is going to send them. And that they can reflect back on a pretty rigorous, pretty active school life to say, oh yeah, I remember it was pretty tough. I remember being this busy. I remember being this worried. I remember thinking I wouldn't make this team. I remember where I wasn't sure if I was going to make friends. I wasn't sure if I was going to fall flat on my face when I had to do this public speaking thing. But I succeeded. I did it. And so later in life, they will say, I know I can handle these kinds of circumstances going forward. I can make my answers longer.
Is there a student that you think of that comes to mind when you think of either path, that someone who was super focused on what they wanted to do and you developed a program for them, and a student who had no idea and, you know, was successful in the end anyway?
Yeah. You don't want me to mention names here. I'd
No, you don't have
embarrass them. But absolutely, absolutely. I've said this to the kids and their parents, and this was a great young guy. I'd say like an average kid that really wasn't sure what they were interested in, and really wasn't sure how much effort they wanted to commit to being part of this very active community. And something changed. And I called him, and I have a number of these kids that I'll say this to. I say, but like, you're the most improved kid. Like, and I can say that to 10 or 15 kids, but to that one kid, something clicked. And just, it's not about averages. It's not about marks necessarily. It's about full engagement and happiness and all those kinds of things. But one of the things was he went from sort of a 74, 75% kid to suddenly he was in the 90s. And actually I wrote a blog about him. So it's out there, it's public, and it's a him in this case. I've always, I was just fascinated. Like, what changed? Like, what happened? And he just said, I don't know. I got the community. I wanted to succeed. I wanted to do well. I wanted to do better. And it just took me a little longer. And so there's AC in my mind. And then I also have just another student who, just from the get-go, in this particular case, loved rocks, like rocks, and and like mining, like what kind of rocks? Igneous rocks, sedimentary rocks, and he pursued his interest at university here in Canada, and went on to do a PhD, all in the study of metallurgy and rocks. And I can remember speaking to him. I think he was in grade 10 when I asked him, what do you want to do? Because I don't know, but I just love rocks. And so there's sort of two ends. And an interesting side about the PhD graduate was that his advisor was also a Trinity College School graduate. And when he completed his dissertation or defended his dissertation, the professor called me and said, you should be very proud. We've just approved, his dissertation, and you should be very proud to have a graduate. And so there's two stories of opposite ends.
Right. And throughout the different families that come to TCS, is there a thread that you see linking them all together?
Good questions. Wow. Linking together. So I would say my first piece would be, why is the parent here in the first place? So is there a thread there? And I would like to think that there are a whole series of pull factors that parents would say, wow, TCS, we've heard of your international reputation, or, I know such and such that's raving about your school. That's what we would like to think, that it's all these positive things. But the reality is there's normally a push factor for a family and a child. And by that is, it's no disrespect to the school that they're presently at, but for whatever reason, there's a sense of a need for change. Could be associated with, somebody academically not being challenged enough, or a child that feels kind of lost in the system. Could be a friend network that maybe they just need to break out of. Might be they want to be in a sports program that's not offered at their present school, or they're driving all over the place in terms of activities, and they're just getting tired because they're playing hockey or they're in dance, or at strange hours and driving all over the place, and they just want one place where they can don't have to get on a bus for long, or they can just do it all at once. But for whatever reason, there's a push factor that happens, which makes the family and the child, or the young person, student, youth, to say, I'm interested in a possible change. So I would say that would be the thread. Like there's something or a collection of things over time where sometimes I would need to change. I'd say that's a thread. And the other thing I would say is it's normally driven by the child or the student. And what makes schools like TCS and TCS so strong is that the kids have chosen to be here. They've done their research. They've gone online. They're there for the tour. And they want to be here. And so it's like kids that love camp. Like they love camp. Why? The whole experience. They want it. And I find that a lot of our kids are sort of, not that our school is like exactly like a camp, but that enthusiasm to want to be part of that community and get a fresh start, etc. And so they're driving it. So the common thread would be, kids wanting to have a change, to be a key decision maker in allowing that change, and then, just wanting to dive in, even if they're scared, to begin with, and nervous. Understand, they want to start looking after themselves. Mm-hmm. They want to take control over their own education. And I use a line, I've probably heard it from someone else, but I've used it so many, I think it's my own. But I think most families and people are familiar with the CEO, the chief executive officer, a woman or a man that's in charge of the company. And anybody that comes to TCS, I always say, congratulations on your promotion. What do you mean? And I say, well, you've just been promoted to chief executive officer of self. You're now the boss of you. And your responsibilities are now going to be owned exclusively by you. Yes, your parents will still love you and care for you and cheer you on. And our teachers are going to do everything we possibly can to help you. But the reality is your reputation and your future is now in your hands. So congratulations. Mm. Now roll up your sleeves and let's get to work.
Mm-hmm. And if TCS was a person, what personality traits would they have?
Where do you get these questions? if they were a person, here's what we strive. What we strive to have. We strive to be the most caring school. I'm not suggesting we are, that there's any quantifiable measure, but care and kindness is at the essence of all good care, of all communities, and particularly school communities. And so if our school was a personality, I would hope that it would be a kind and caring person that is willing to do, whatever it takes to help others while also accomplishing your own goals in the process. Kind and caring.
And when you think of TCS in the next 5 or 10 years, how do you see it changed or evolved or grown in certain ways?
Yeah, the school has been around. We're in for 155 years, and it has necessarily changed. For example, it was only boarding school at one stage, and now we have boarding students and day students. It was all boys. And now it's boys and girls at the school. The variety of sports, the variety of academic programs, it consistently evolves. And most people think, that it would be me, that I'm now charting the next new direction for TCS. I would say the big drivers tend to be the kids. I would tend to say that the society around us either forces or encourages us to change. And so I would say that the next stage in the next 5 to 10 years, the next evolution, as opposed to any mandated change. Again, I just think that the next evolution will be for kids to continue to make the world a better place. I think through the eyes of many kids right now, the adults seem to have messed it up, whether it's the planet, whether it's relations, whether it is politics, economics, disparity, income disparity, whatever. I think a lot of kids look at the world as almost broken. Mm-hmm. And I do believe that for them to take greater ownership and responsibility, they didn't create the problem, but to be part of the solution. And how can they be part of the solution? I would say the evolution of our school will just have a greater emphasis on creating or help facilitating, along with parents, kinder, more caring, more active, engaged, involved students willing to do something and not just speak to it. We have a bit of a mantra here at the school in terms of what distinguishes us, and it tends to be very simple, and I think it applies to kids, adults, anybody, and that is we strive to care more and work harder. And I'm not suggesting that people aren't working hard enough, but if you care more about whatever it is you're interested in, then you're prepared to work harder. And so I think the evolution will be for kids just to care more, take responsibility, even though they might not have created the problem, and to work hard to achieve positive solutions to some of our biggest issues on the planet.
And I'm glad you brought up parents as well. They are a part of the community as well. How do you, especially for boarding students, how do you manage parent communications and make sure that they are also involved in the community? And what are the expectations of involvement in the community?
Right. So I'd say one of the best things, well, I'll steal a couple of lines from others. I can't remember who I'm quoting, but parents know their children, and schools, or a school like TCS, we know adolescents. And parents are increasingly challenged with that stage in a child's life. Well, that's our specialty. Mm-hmm. So there is a healthy, necessary trust that has to take place between parents and the school. And so, to use a bit of an image, there's the child or the student, and then there's the parent, and there's the school, and these three things have to be linked. So there has to be communication, obviously between the child and the parent, and the child and the school, but also between, the school and the parent. We have to be like this. Of course, parents take a greater responsibility to protect, etc., but the communication has to be like this at all times. So there's that. There must be communication. The other thing, though, is that parents, I do believe it's in the best interest of kids to grow outside of the parental bubble. And that while parents care the most and love the most, kids do also need to figure it out themselves. They need to stand on their own. So that balance of a parent of not micromanaging their life or micro worrying about their child is a critical part of the process, but not to the exclusion of communication. And so having small class sizes, every student has an advisor. So there are per advisor, there's anywhere from sort of 5 to 7 kids that have an advisor that oversees their day-to-day life. By having small classes, advisor, kids belong to a house. They belong to sports, they belong to the arts, they belong to community service, and each has an adult overseeing that program. And there's a tremendous amount of communication, direct communication, email, otherwise Zoom calls, this kind of stuff. But also we have a platform, an online platform where parents are able to, know if kids are behind in assignments or if they might have missed a class or late for class, those kinds of things. So they're involved, or might be able to maybe prompt their child to get that English assignment in, etc. So from online, in-person, email, pick up the phone, they're engaged and communicated, but not to the point where we're micromanaging their children's lives.
And how does TCS address if there's a conflict between a parent and the school, or if there's a miscommunication in that triangle, because things will happen?
Right. Well, not surprisingly, open, honest, direct communication has to take place between, again, for all. The school has to be very clear in its rules and expectations with kids, and it has to be very clear with parents. And when you join on to the school, it's not a series of contracts and compliance that we're expecting. It's commitment. It's a covenant. It's a commitment that we're parents in the school are looking for the macro interest of a child to develop their self-esteem and their confidence. So we're on the same page. So a conflict between a parent and the school, for example, or with the child, probably has to do more with miscommunication. Maybe the assumptions weren't clear. Maybe there's a misunderstanding in terms of what the parents thought and what the school thought. And again, the only way that can be resolved is through open, honest conversation. I know with my own kids, the line that I use with them regularly, if they haven't necessarily done something that I thought was right, and I feel that we're not really getting down to the heart of it, I always say, are we having an honest conversation? Because we're not having an honest conversation, then we're playing a game and we're tiptoeing around the issue. So let's have an honest conversation. And I would say with kids and with parents, like, what's the issue? And then, and we'll resolve it. But I also ask parents when they first arrive at the school to PGI, presume good intent. Presume good intentions. PGI, I say it all the time. Presume the reason that the school exercised this decision, or the parents have taken that position, that we both enter a disagreement, that we both had the best intentions, but something's lost. Mm-hmm. But there's no malintent. If we think if we think the parents, or the parents think the school has some malintent, then we've got a problem. So let's have the starting point that the reason that we thought we were doing something was in the best interest of your child. You might think, I don't believe that's in the best interest of your child. Okay, well, at least we're both coming from a good place.
Right.
But we're gonna have to align ourselves in terms of what our goals or our values are.
And what is your advice for parents who are in their school search right now?
So include your child would be number one. Like the kid, it works if the kids are very much involved. And I would say to do your research. And the best way to do it, you can do it online. All of our schools are, public and independent schools. There's all good intentions on all schools' part. But sort of mind down with your child, what is it that isn't working? Or what is it that could elevate your engagement, sense of purpose, whatever it might be. So identify that. Check different schools. Create your own checklist of what you're looking for to see if those schools have them. I would encourage a conversation or a visit to the school. So it's just another step in the process. If possible, if you have a network of people that might be involved with that school, ask them what they liked about the school, or the school can put you in touch with people. So you create all of that sort of rational thinking, and then honestly, it'll come down to a gut feel. The number of people that have said, as soon as they drove through the gates at TCS, they went, I knew that was my school. Or conversely, someone that went to another school would say, as soon as I went to that school, I know I had all of these things that I was looking for, but that didn't matter because I love this about it, or I love the feel. So there would be my advice. And engage your children, create a checklist, do some visits, and then listen to your gut.
And with your experience in the field, your industry knowledge, what is there, if you were in their position, is there a red flag that would ring alarm bells, I guess, in your mind, if you were searching out different schools that maybe someone without your knowledge wouldn't know to look for?
Unfortunately, when you go to visit a school, you have to book an appointment. And just, for a variety of reasons now, you have to book an appointment, you have to take precautions to go into the school. I would favor the approach where you just show up, right? I would love it if parents and kids just show up unannounced to check out the school. Because I think seeing the mood and the tone of kids in a school is so critical to getting a more accurate assessment of what life is like. Are the kids engaged? Do they appear to be happy? Are they talking? Are they in groups? All these things. Are the fields active? Are the classes active? So, if you were to walk into a school and you were not, you didn't feel that, you didn't see it, you didn't experience it, that would be a red flag. But I think even on a tour, and most schools do this, they have a student that gives, an unscripted student, give a tour of the school. I think if not to put the pressure on a student as being the deciding factor, but they have a tremendous influence on parents. And if what you saw on that tour, or talking to an administrator, or a form room teacher, or what you see as you're touring the school, or stop and ask a student, just randomly as they're walking, hey, what do you love about the school, or what don't you like about the school? I think that would give you perhaps a more accurate assessment, and you might discover something that you don't see in our school's marketing brochures. We're always putting out the nice happy faces and things, but we know that that's not the case, particularly with adolescents. It's not all rainbows and lollipops. So and then I guess a red flag would be if someone that went to the school or was associated with the school, ask them for the strengths and the weaknesses. And maybe one of those weaknesses might be enough to either turn you away from another school and interested in TCS, or maybe the vice versa. It might be something to turn you away from TCS into another school. So there's my response to the red flag question.